Hi, everybody. And today I'm still picking on TypeGrid and the idea of communication styles which do not map into MBTI directly. Uh, Specifically today, I'll pick on, again, the idea of abstract communications being intuitive and concrete communication styles being sensory. Similarly to how future focused is not intuitive and past focused is not sensory. That is, there may be some correlation, but generally it doesn't work. So in the future, at some point, I could do a big debunk of all of TypeGrid using statistical analysis. That's not a lot of fun. It sounds like work instead of fun. So I will stick with this little tidbit instead for now. And that is that I've noticed in my own communication style, I am, at least in talking to others, unless prompted otherwise, I'm decidedly concrete. So I did the TypeGrid self-assessment and it spat out, at least the way that I took it, if I did it right, ISFJ. And then I took the online 4-question test or self-assessment, and that spat out ISTP. So a couple of different types to consider. In fact, I think that kind of makes sense because I never identified with the C.S. Joseph INFP personality type descriptions. So I should probably go and check out ISTP and ISFJ and see if one of those is more correct for my typing in the CSJ world of things, which is, I believe, decidedly different from what standard MBTI produces of results. Anyway, the point I'm getting to is that I have, through business and personal relationships, I'm in contact regularly with at least one INTJ, one INFJ, and one INTP. And with the INTJ and INFJ in particular, you'd expect that we would be having very abstract conversations, deep philosophical meanings that we're pondering the nature of life and our own existence in this world and the pursuit of meaning. No, that's not really the case. The sorts of stuff we talk about is what backyard birds did we see? How's the weather doing? How are relatives? Did someone come for a visit? And what was that experience like? Did you cook anything? That sounds like an interesting dish. What's the recipe? Can you share it? How are the kids? How are the parents? In other words, it's the most banal of all things feared by intuitives, supposedly. It is banal small talk. But the thing being that small talk can be big. And that is, it's all kind of on the purpose or the intent of what you're doing with those discussions. And so when I went to this post-Christmas party, it occurred to me kind of most of the way through that the sorts of conversations I'm having, the sorts of conversations I'm seeking out, are the ones about the parents whose kids were off at college, what their experience is, how the kids are doing, or at least through their lens, their perspective, if they're in a relationship, what are they studying, and how is, these little banal things about what is the world like for their kid, what is it like for the parent. The thing being that the discussion about these banal things is much deeper than that, at least for me. It's the idea of seeing this iteration, this sample of a parent and their kid, and the change in the relationship as they grow up as an older teenager, and that they leave, and then they're no longer under direct parental control. And what happens then? And that combination of pride and concern and some worry and all of the emotions that then come out from the parent about how their child is doing and how they'll make it in the world. That is really an interesting thing. And it's then similar to with the idea of having entertained. Well, gosh, what does that mean for the people who are, the relationship with those people who came over? The dishes are interesting because all of these things are like they're sensory components, but there's more meaning in it beyond the recipe, beyond the meeting, beyond the story of the kid in college, beyond the birds. We're talking about observations about the changing of the seasons, about the changing of potentially about weather patterns that are changing, concerns about what if the promises of the past of nature's behavior is still holding true, or whether we're observing changes within our lifetime about the sorts of birds that come to our feeder, the sorts of things that we see. It's these little signs that we can share that have a deeper meaning than the superficiality of those little signs themselves. And while on the one hand, I can say, those sensory bits are the foundation off of which I can launch into a lot of intuitive ideas, and so it has a lot of value for me, it would be remiss of me not to say that, or it would be wrong of me to say that sensors don't get their own equally important kind of inputs from those kinds of conversations, that they're enriched in a similar way through the feeling and thinking and sensing of being in the moment with telling a particular way of retelling the tale of how they're living and how their kids are doing and so on and so forth. So the takeaway of that is that abstract versus concrete, if you're going to look at what people lean towards, folks like me decidedly lean concrete for the purposes of abstraction. So this then goes down to my final point, which is the way that I would see intuition really comes down to, especially with extroverted intuition, it's novelty. But for both types of intuition, it's outside of the box. It's inherently immeasurable through a standardized testing tool, because what you're trying to measure is that ability to get outside of the test mechanism, go take a lateral step, and then come up with a completely novel way of, or completely novel approach to doing things. And so we could have, I could make up an entire interesting story, like about, corgis on the moon, sent there by Elon Musk, that are that have been put together as a sort of a pack. Of course, they need military ranks because they have that whole canine hierarchy thing going on, and they are sent there by Elon to mine for greeting cards in order to refill the strategic greeting card reserves of the US, which have begun to run dry since our mines in Arizona have run out, and all that we're able to get out of those greeting card mines these days are bereavement and Valentine's Day cards. Therefore, by Mother's Day, if we don't have the corgis in action with mining the moon's excess greeting card supply and returning it, we may have a terrible Mother's Day ahead with no greeting cards whatsoever. And this is just one of an endless supply of stupidity that I can throw at the wall. This was just an example to get weird, but what this abstraction of what I would consider NE to come up with novelty, whatever it may be, is not that interesting. What makes NE or NI interesting is when you apply it through, say, a sensory lens, through working through a specific scenario. And that means engaging with people at the level that everyone engages in, which is a sensory level. So the whole takeaway of it is, again, abstract and concrete are not reliable ways to tell if someone is intuitive versus a sensor. What it'll tell you is whether someone talks in abstract or in concrete terms. And you can get an ISTJ that can talk all about Kierkegaard and Camus and Nietzsche and whoever else that they have got in their list of philosophy that they've followed. And thanks to having great experiential reference and good ability to sort of ordinate stuff, they can come up with all sorts of abstract discussions about these sorts of things. What you're looking for is that novelty to say, bring some of that philosophy down and actually engage and get your hands into it and process it in a meaningful way that creates something new and different. And then suddenly you can say, aha, that is the sign of intuition, that someone has taken these ideas and taken them laterally to something completely unrelated, or even related but in an unusual way, and created something new, or had a unique new insight on the basis of synthesizing a bunch of different views, and suddenly, there it is, the novel new concept, or the bringing down to the archetype that is unique and a leap from the existing things that can be ingested through experience. So that's my bit. I hope wherever you are, you're having a good morning, afternoon, day, and well, we'll talk again soon.